So first and foremost, we're going to take the hood off the car here so we can actually get to the front side of the motor, because I have a cam seal leak right now. It's pretty horrible actually, so we need to, you guys can actually see here, we need to gain access to the front side of the motor, so removing the hood is going to be the easiest way to do that. And just surely having the hood laid down and then being able to get from the front to access those bolts is the easiest way to remove it. You just pick it up, put it on the roof or whatever. So that's that. We're gonna get started. So I got the hood off now. As you can see, they 3 bolts, and then on this one here, you actually have a ground strap too. So you got to remove that, and then you have your actual hinge mechanism here, and you can actually zip tie this down into there. Like if you wanted, you could put this down, keep it out of your way. I would zip tie this together though, so it doesn't just fly up and smack you if you're unaware. So we're going to pull the entire elbow and airbox out of our way as well. You're going to have your mass air sensor electrical connector here, and then you're going to have, I believe, your cold start if you have that. It'll wrap around here and just pop it out of clips. It's actually supposed to be over here. It never got put back. So now we can get these pretty much out of our way. Now we're gonna I think I'm actually gonna leave the elbow on here, to be honest, until we get to the point of replacing that. And then you're gonna have 2 10mm nuts here. You do not need to fully remove them. They're made to slip in and out of the bracket, so you can just back them off until they're loose. And then also if you have some piece to your airbox there, it'll be a little bit difficult to get it out, so pull it off first. And then, like I said, you can slide the airbox up and out. And that's all the way out. And then also down in the groove, there's going to be a little rubber boot, so just make sure you don't lose that, or else the box will sit a little wonky. And then I'm going to remove the coolant from the radiator by removing the lower line off the neck down there. There is a plastic screw you can undo, but odds are it's going to break, so we're just going to remove it from right here and drain everything. So I just broke the hose clamp loose down there, so now it's dripping. We got a drain pan down there. And since we're pulling the radiator to do all this stuff, you're going to have to pull off your backside of your headlight covers so that you can remove this electrical plug here. It's going to be clipped to the radiator as well, so we're going to move that aside. And we're going to have to undo the upper radiator hose. Loosen this guy, and we're going to rotate it. And then we're also going to remove the this one goes to the water pump, if I remember correctly. Yep. Actually, we're just going to get this hose completely out of the way too. now we're going to remove the, if you're, you know, obviously this is the ETA coolant system, so we're going to remove the lower hose from the reservoir to the water pump. There goes the rest of the fluid. Okay, so moving forward here, we're going to get rid of our upper line from the expansion tank. Fully remove this, get it out of our way. Actually, going to see if I can find a new hose for this. I'm not really liking the fact that I used one and cut it to fit. And to be smart, we are going to plug that hole off to the microfiber. Just shove it down in there for the moment. Once everything dries, I'll probably put tape around it. And okay, so now we're gonna get the distributor cap out of our way. These are 8s, if I remember correctly. Yep. And these are captivated to the distributor cap, so they will not come out fully. You have 3 of them. Said they're captivated, so they will stay in the actual distributor cap here. You'll feel when they come loose from the actual timing belt cover. So you're gonna have a dust shield in here. So just pull that aside, leave the dust shield in there for the moment. You got your points here. This one's pretty well cleaned up, but we can see where our oil has been leaking down out of here. And some of that might even be coolant from just now. We'll just put that up aside. Our dust cover actually is contained by our rotor. So we're gonna leave the rotor in there for right now. Now we're going to actually worry about getting the fan and the radiator shroud out. Then we will go for the radiator. So for the fan, unless you have a slimline wrench, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to remove 2 of the water pump pulley bolts, and then you can fit a wrench down on there. And the fan, the clutch fan here, actually that's gonna fit in there, is reverse threaded, so right to loosen, left to tighten. This one has been taken off recently, but as you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but we're actually slipping the belts, so we're just gonna give it a quick hit, and we're free now. I'll be able to thread it off. But again, if you can't get your wrench down in there, you're gonna have to remove 2 of those bolts with a slimline, just a regular box end wrench. No big deal. And then when you are pulling the fan out, don't spin it too crazy and then end up smacking your radiator. Which look like 10s. Yep. There's still going to be fluid in our radiator, so that's going to come out here. We're going to lift this thing out. So now everything should be free of the radiator. It is. Don't break any of your necks off. So we're going to put our 13 on this side of the bolt. It's got a nut here, and then the head of the bolt is actually geared. So this is what moves the alternator forwards and backwards so that you can put tension on it. So we're just going to loosen the back nut. You don't want to try to loosen this front one because that's what the gear runs on. So you could strip it is basically what would go wrong there. So with this loose, we'll be able to walk the alternator towards the block or away from the block towards the frame rail. You can see the alternator actually coming inwards. Belt is getting looser. There we go. Now we can get the power steering one off here. So for the power steering pump, same thing, 19 on the outside, 13 on the back side. We're gonna get this back nut loosened up. Then same method as what we did here. We'll be able to walk the power steering pump forward. So it's a little bit difficult to show you guys how to actually loosen the power steering pump, but you have a bolt here and a bolt there. You need to loosen those. You don't need to fully remove them. Then once you do that, you loosen up your 13 here, then you can use the 19 to drive the, to push the power steering pump nut that direction. In turn will lift it and allow you to pull the belt on and off. So that's that. Guys, make sure your battery is disconnected as you're doing that, because you don't want to swing your ratchet handle down on the back side of that alternator and have something mark. So I'll leave the water pump pulley on. I don't think I actually need it fully removed. So we're gonna get our crank position sensor out of here now. Like I said, this is for the ETA style engine. We'll end up having a different one that mounts over here actually. Now that I'm looking at it, that's got to come off regardless, because to remove that pulley. So yeah, we just need to take that off. Okay, so now we can remove our rotor actually. So these are a 4mm Allen. Now we can remove our upper cover here. And then you're going to remove your inspection cover, so you can actually pop that off, and then it'll follow suit behind you. It kind of goes down and around. And we can move out the way of our, just to pull the motor. So I just wanted to show you guys where to actually time the motor. You're going to have a groove in the head right here, and then a groove on the cam gear right there. Need to align that. Then if you have a M20B27 and ETA motor, yours is going to look like this, but this line right here is where you're aligning these two together. So you got that groove in the timing belt lower cover here, and you want that groove between the O and the T dead center. Now when you're turning the motor over, you can get these to look like they're relatively close, but just slightly off on the crank. And that you need to just keep turning the motor over. Probably go, depending on which direction it was, if it's to the right of the line on the crank down here, you probably need 2 more turns. If it's to the left, 1 more turn. But keep turning the motor until they're exactly aligned. Don't just assume somebody mistimed the motor because this is on and this is off by 1/4 of an inch. It's going to come into play. So always go 2 to 3 turns. And we have 6 bolts down here that are 13mm onto the pulley. We're going to remove those, and some of them are going to be a little bit tight, so you're just going to take your breaker bar, get it on there good, and then if you have a mallet, just give it 1 good whack. It should come relatively free. That one it didn't. There we go. And just keep moving around. And if it's hard to actually see the bolts, you can look through your kidney grill, and you can see them that way. That one's already loose. Just go around until they're all loose. Okay. We're going to move the motor back into its timing position now. And we're actually going to put our bolt back into the lower cover just to ensure that we have, I'm not going to put it all the way in, but just find where it's centered so that we know where our timing mark is, because we have moved from here to here, so we need to come back there, because when we get that pulley off, the next thing is to get the other one off, and then that cover is coming off and we won't know where the timing is. So we need to keep everything as close as possible constantly here. And again, for your to actually see the correct alignment for the upper cam gear, look through your kidney grill so you can see it dead on. If you look up above, you'll be slightly off. So we're back here, just gonna go a little bit too far. Okay, we're good there. So now we will pull the remainder . They're gonna have a washer attached. And make sure you collect all your washers if any fell off. Now the pulley can come off. As you can see, some of them may be a little bit stuck on there. You just kind of pop it off. Not a big deal. So I'm saying we're good to pull this off now. And as you can see, there is the keyed dowel that I was talking about, that it can only go one way. As well as here's another timing mark. So I guess once the pulley is off, we can actually see the timing here. I'm kind of an idiot, so sorry for that explanation prior. Disregard that, just get it close, and then we have this here, and we are dead nuts. So that's perfect. But it's just a groove. It's kind of an arrow groove in the casting here, and then a straight line on the crank. So we're golden. So now we can remove the lower cover here. Okay, so next up, we need to loosen this. I'm not 100% sure past the fact that there's really like no room when this is tight. I've already slightly loosened it for the belt to come off. So I'm pretty sure you just need to have this backed out enough for the belt to actually be able to slip on and off there. We're gonna loosen this bolt right here, and then we're gonna take a long screwdriver and we're gonna shove this tensioner pulley towards the passenger of the car as far as we can. Then we're gonna retighten it and lock it down so that the tensioner is all the way this way so that we can relieve tension off the belt and pull it off. Okay, so I don't know how well you guys can see, but that bolt that I had just pointed out, we're gonna loosen it. Or loosen this bolt down here too, or else it's not gonna turn. Okay, there we go. I was a little bit afraid to bend that nut right there, so now I got it all the way back. I'm gonna crank it back down. Yeah, you can see that we have tension off the belt, and actually it now does clear that, but we are going to get it just a little bit more out of the way for ourselves. Okay, so now we just want to make sure that our timing marks are still aligned before we pull this belt off. So I'll show you one last time. We're in line with our tooth there, and then as you can see, we're in line there on the cam gear to the head. So now you should feel safe and comfortable to remove the belt. You guys sit back up there. Okay, so now we're just gonna pull the belt off of here, come up and off. We're gonna pull the belt out and around. There we go. So next on your to-do list is going to be removing this bolt right here. This is going to be a T50 Torx. I'll plug her right down in there, and then we're gonna crank that thing free. Again, remember where your timing mark is when you put this pulley back on. So now we're doing the cam seal replacement, if you were all wondering. So now we're going to take the bolt out of the cam gear here, and we're going to use our old belt to immobilize this pulley here. So I'm just going to take a pair of channel locks, and we're going to pinch this belt shut. So we did move that just a bit, so we need to get it back into position before we fully remove that. I'm just going to tap it back into alignment. Okay, we're now back into alignment. Now we should be able to break this free without any issues. There we go. Now we can get this bolt out of here. And we can actually see the cam seal. And we're actually keyed on the cam shaft to the gear, so no worries of this fully being aligned Now that we've had that properly aligned, that's going to go back in one way. So now we have 2 bolts. Those are going to be 10 millimeters. We're going to remove those. Now we're also going to need to clean this up a bit too, once we get everything off of here. There we go, now we're getting it to move. So you may need a dead blow to get this thing starting to move around. So yeah, just keep turning and pulling. Only advice I can give. But it is on there tight. There's no doubt about this. Here it comes. Yeah, there it is. Now we're going to clean up the end of the camshaft there so that everything's nice and sealed up well and no chance of leaks because it's buried. So, all right, guys. So I didn't show you how to remove this on the camera because I wanted to make sure I 100% knew what I was doing to remove this before giving you any advice. So the seal obviously slips in this direction. So what I did was take this. First had it flipped over like this. This is a 32 millimeter socket. Put it right in here, pounded it against the wood with the mallet for quite a bit until I could actually see that the seal was starting to get above the edge here. Once it was like that, I then took this thing like this and just proceeded to smash it down here, and then bam, eventually it popped out like that. So to put the seal in, same type of thing as what we're going to do. We're going to use a bigger socket though on this side, and then we're gonna smash it in there. So I'll show you guys that too. A little bit of oil in there. Put oil inside here, as well as oil the seal. We want it all to be nice and lubricated when we try to slide this sucker in. We do not want it hanging up one bit. And we're going to get a little bit bigger of a socket. We're actually going to use a 36 millimeter to put it in. As you can see, it's pretty darn close.
Caller now, the 1-877-570-1053 snags a 4-pack of one-day, one-part tickets to the Disneyland Resort.
And this is just kind of like doing a your oil filter seal. You want the seal to stay lubricated. You don't want it going in dry and hanging up on things. Okay, so now we're just going to put that in there like that. Just tap this guy. Okay. See, we're installed. Everything looks golden. so now we're going to get our other seal here. This one's going to get lubricated as well. And anytime you go to put a round seal on, you want to make sure you don't roll the seal when you install it. So we're going to put it on, and we're only going to stretch it just far enough to get it to slide over. And then just run your hands over it like this, and if there is a roll in it, you'll see that the O-ring is twisted, and we just want the O-ring to be sitting in completely, you know, in its own thing. There's no twist to it, because that'll mess with it. So now we're gonna go install this guy. One more hit on it. Okay, so we have all this cleaned up on the camshaft, and then again we have all this lubricated. So this is going to go in with the BMW and the part number down. That was how we pulled it out. Want it to be just like that. We're just going to tap her in. Just a little tap tap. Okay. Now to get this back into alignment, we're just going to tap it down like we did earlier until our bolt holes are exposed. And just always make sure you clean off your threads too, because you don't want to jam any foreign debris down in there. So if you can't thread them in with your fingers, you probably shouldn't be trying to force them in. Word to the wise. So doesn't seem to be a torque for these, so we're just gonna say what feels good. Since it's aluminum, it's gonna expand. We don't want to strip anything. Okay, now we can do the tensioner down here. We're going to do that before putting the sprocket back on so that we can just literally see everything easier. This bolt will have to come back out, but I'm just keeping it there so there's a little more tension on that pulley so it doesn't go flying around. You should hear that tension. That was that spring releasing. See, we moved even further. Now actually quite a bit of tension off that spring. And just hang on to the spring here so that it doesn't just go flying out. That's also why I put the lower bolt in here, was to keep the tensioner from wanting to just fly out. So if you've done the water pump before, you're familiar with this spring and this pin, and it's it's a pain in the butt to get in here and put it in when you're doing the water pump. There's no doubt. And actually, we're going to do this because this actually helped when taking it off. So we'll put this in here. This gives us a pivot point to drive this down on the spring and pin. Let's keep it loose so that we have a pretty straight tolerance. And then again, pointed end in here. We're going to push her back so that we can Okay, so now we got our tensioner back on. Now remember, we're going to want the tensioner all the way to the passenger side of the car, so we need to get our socket ready. We're going to get this close enough that we can snug it real quick. Again, we're going to take our screwdriver. And we're going to lock that tensioner down. Okay, we're going to loosen this back up just a bit so that we can slip that belt up in there when it comes time. Now it's time to put the cam gear back on. So as you remember, we have a key and a hole there. We line those up. Every time you have a hole and a stud, they go together. Make sure that's all the way on. Check our alignment mark. Dead nuts. We're good to go. Now we need to put back in our guess it's our rotor shield. And remember, we have a pin and a hole. It's supposed to be. I'm going to say it's right about there. Okay, so they say 48 to 52. I'm going to hit it at 50. Okay, so again, we pushed our timing, so we need to come back here now. Come back just a hair. There. Now a little bit more. There we go. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, now we can release our old belt. Throw that sucker away. Check that we're still timed down here. There shouldn't be any reason why we should be anywhere moved. Okay, so yes, we want to start at the bottom. I want to get the belt in there. And we just want to slip the belt on. Some cases it may be kind of tight, I'm guessing, but as for this, it went on reasonably well. Okay, looks like the teeth are lined up from the crank gear to the belt. Everything looks aesthetically correct. Good to release the tension off the tensioner. Okay, so now we're going to release tension onto this belt. Yeah, just make sure that don't move. Okay, now we're gonna, we're still aligned here, we're aligned here. We're gonna put the cover here, the lower timing cover, and then the crank pulley, and then rotate the motor over 2 times to ensure everything stays in alignment. Alright, so we got the timing belt in. We have the cam gear deal for the ignition timing positioned correctly. And new timing belt, new tensioner installed. Cleaned up stuff the best I could. So now we're going to rotate the motor over 2 times to ensure that all of our timing marks stay where they are. So we've reinstalled the lower timing cover, so we have the timing mark to our front dampener pulley. It's still engaged at the, or still at the same lines. Our crank pulley is at the same to the head. So now we're just going to physically turn the motor over. If we can get 2 rotations out of it and our timing marks come back to alignment, we're going to be good to go. Now we're going to go clockwise. So we've got 1 full turn. And 2 turns, and we are back to where we started. And once you have done all this, you can put your engine back together and proceed forward. Installation is going to be the reverse of all this. I did fail to mention, if you guys need to replace your water pump, I do have a video on that, so look up water pump under my channel and you'll be able to find the replacement there. It's not too complicated, but I did the water pump before I ever did the timing belt, so normally you would do the water pump with the timing belt, but I do show you guys how to do the water pump without doing the timing belt. So if you guys need to do that as well, check it out. But yeah, you're just going to put your pulley back on and then reverse assembly all the way back through. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.